any chance to compete one day with me in Indonesia?
Never say never, you know. And,
Yes, welcome to MK Talks. Today I have Ryan Babel, the one and only, with me.
Yep.
Thank you for joining. Straight from the pitch, Netherlands vs Spain yesterday. Now in the podcast with Mark Klok.
Yep.
Nice story. I always looked up to you as a kid, actually, myself. When you played at Ajax or the national team. We have met each other last summer, actually, for the first time.
Yeah.
I always got inspired how you were thinking off the pitch as well. So it was a pleasure to meet you in person, to speak with you. And now I have the chance to share your story or share our conversation with my followers or whoever listens. So maybe they get motivated as well.
Yes.
So one more time, thank you. Prepared some questions. First one. You came up as a wonderkid in early career in the Netherlands. How did you start your football career, and how was the support of your parents in that way, or your family?
Well, I grew up in Amsterdam as a kid. I was fortunate to being selected by Ajax very early on. I was 10 years old, joining Ajax Youth Academy. I was able to, walk through the whole academy. Made my debut on 17. This was in 2004, a long time ago. And during this journey, growing up in a specific place called the Belmer in Amsterdam. It's a place where, at that time especially, there was a lot of crime also. And one of the things that I enjoyed doing was obviously playing football outside after school. And there were certain times where it was not really safe to be outside because you had, neighborhood kids or, guys who were causing trouble. So it was a time with a lot of tension in the 90s. But talking about support from my parents, I always had a support, especially my father, who was very, very strict, tough on me, always pushing. Therefore, I had to miss out on a lot of fun stuff when I was a kid. Sleepovers at friends or certain birthday parties or certain events where you would go with friends. My father always made sure I went to bed on time and made sure I was focused. And it was not always easy, but I feel at the end of the day that got me at the end where I am today. So the discipline, realizing discipline very early on was, I guess, key for me personally to understand what was making it about, basically.
So if you describe the role of your parents, and in this case your father, you will say it was key to realize your dream as a kid to become a professional football player.
Yeah, if you think about it, the place where I grew up is only 20 minutes from the city in Amsterdam, if you talk about Amsterdam. But I've only seen the city as soon as I became 18 years of age, So all these years before, I never went outside my neighborhood. And where kids from my age at that time, 15, 16 years old, were already taking the transportation all the way into the city, hanging out, standing on corners. And I had these friends also, but I was never able to join them, and obviously at that time, I was kind of upset with that because, hey, my friends were going outside having fun and I was not able to join. But at the end, it was for a good cause, My father kept me disciplined and kept me home, and I feel like that's what got me at the end where I am today.
So going back to the moment you got scouted or you got accepted in the Ajax academy. How did that make you feel as the young kid, and how did that make your father feel at that moment when he put so much effort in you to teach you about the discipline you need to have? Was it a relief? Was it a
I mean, I think the relief you would only realize that as soon as you were, a few years down into football, understanding, hey, now I can apply everything that I've learned early on, but during the time it was difficult, you were still young, and you try to understand that leaving things and being focused, why that was necessary. What I can remember, there were many teammates at that time who, in my opinion, had way more talent than me, but who didn't make it, and at the end, if you analyze that, it was simply because they had too much freedom. They didn't have nobody really looking out for them, and it sounds very cliche, but at the end, that can be very helpful, and whether you make it or not.
Yeah, I agree, totally agree. So thanks for your father for teaching you that at that age.
Yeah, for sure.
Who was the most inspiring to you when you start your journey as a football player?
Well, I mean, at that time, Ajax was doing very well in the 90s. But of course, that team who was superior in Europe. They won the Champions League, and growing up as a kid, you would look up to those guys. They're from Ajax. They were playing for, your team from the city. Yeah, you were idolizing them. Obviously, as a forward, you would always look up to the forward players. And at that time, I feel like, Patrick Kluivert was for me the most inspiring player. Also because, he came from the youth, and so yeah, it was like a kind of inspiration that like, hey, if you do well in the youth, you might have a chance to break through. And as I continued to get older, I discovered, the French player Thierry Henry, who joined Arsenal at that time very early on, and his game was at the end more applying to my type of game, and I've been following ever since.
So take me back to the moment Ryan Babel made his debut in Ajax, childhood dream, all those sacrifices paying off. How was the feeling?
I mean, it was indescribable, At one point, you get offered a contract at age 16. I turned December 2003, I turned 17. And then 2004 in February, I was able to make my debut. And it was a little bit luck also, because we had a lot of injuries. At that time, Zlatan was injured. The second striker was injured. Was the Belgian player called Wesley Song. And then you had another striker who was who would start that game. His name was Jason Colina. He was also injured. So Ronald Koeman at that time, came to talk to me on game day and say like, hey, listen, you have to start in the striker. And it was in the arena, it was against ADO Den Haag. I remember like, hey, this is it, what you have trained all these years, so unexpected. And you had to get ready. And luckily, we won that game 4-0. I had one assist on Nikolai Mitea, Romanian player, and I played quite well that game. So for me, it was a journey, a start to a whole new life. It was from not being like a normal kid, all of a sudden to people recognizing you outside, and that changed overnight. So it was very undescribable moment. Again, I definitely look back very proud experiencing that.
Understand.
Yeah.
So shining at Ajax, having a great career, you kick off your made your debut, stay at Ajax, have wonderful years. Then boom, Liverpool come. I think a wonderful transfer, a dream coming true to go to the Premier League. Quite difficult time also, I think.
Yeah.
But despite that, you stayed there for 4 years.
Right.
You enjoyed it?
I think Liverpool was definitely one of my greater experiences during my career with everything, you know. Also there I really gained my maturity as a player, but also as a person. It was not easy. It was my first time living on myself and also abroad, you know, because before all these years I lived at home, at my parents' home. Now you had to live by yourself and you had to live in a different country. So, you know, all these things came to me and you had to deal with them. And of course, you know, I was young, I was 20 years old when I moved to Liverpool. Again, you know, life gets at you really quick and you had to deal with a lot of things. And luckily, I was naturally not a crazy player in terms of not knowing how to deal with, you know, most of those things. That's when actually things that you have taught from home, was able to apply those things. The journey was interesting. I had a very good first season with 10 goals. We reached semi-finals in Champions League. I had 5 goals in the Champions League my first season. It was a great experience. Unfortunately, the last 2 seasons of my Liverpool career were a lot less than the first 2 seasons. Also in terms of playtime. Yeah, that's where I kind of decided to try and take my, playtime elsewhere. And that's when I went to Germany.
And then you said Germany, several other clubs, and then you decided one day you will go to Asia, to Al Ain.
Mm-hmm.
What brought you to that play? I think for quite a lot of people it was a kind of crazy move.
Right.
Maybe not football players, crazy move. What brought you there? Why you decided to find your luck there?
For me, it was a lot easier to make that move also at the stage where I was with my career at that point. I was already not really in mainstream football for some years at that time. Better said, maybe I think at that time my relevancy was not really, how it used to be in my early days. So I felt like, people not really paying attention to me anymore. So it was easy to make a decision to just explore the world more and explore different cultures and explore different type of football cultures also. And at that time I was already playing 3 years in Turkey, and to move from Turkey to Al Ain was not a very big transition because, I think lifestyle was similar, Muslim country. So I already learned, few factors about that culture in Turkey. So for me, it was not really a big transition. And of course, you have to admit financially also played a big role. I got offered a very good opportunity to play there. I went for it, and that's where the decision came about, basically.
Outside of the questions, but just tuning in on your answers, when I saw that move as a young kid, you going there, I kind of understood why you did it, maybe. Mm-hmm. But looking back now and how you came back again after being in Al Ain, most people will say, when you go to Asia, when you go to Arabia, whatever, just for the financial part, your career is kind of over. But you did the opposite. You came back in the Dutch squad, had very good seasons. I think you're reborn again.
Right.
How do you see it yourself? You see it the same way, or?
I mean, at the end of the day,
did you expect this?
I didn't really expect it the way how it turned out to be, but I always kept enough confidence in myself that I knew, the ability that I had if I really wanted to put my mind to it. And unfortunately, I didn't really had a great time in terms of football in Al Ain. Yeah, you had to create a new opportunity for yourself to make sure that you could, extend your career again. After leaving the club on a free transfer, I was out of club for a few months, and I had the opportunity to go to Spain, to Deportivo La Coruña compared to what I earned in Al Ain for peanuts, you know. But again, at that time, at that point, financially, at that point, I couldn't really care too much about that. I just wanted to make sure that, hey, if I can show myself again in Spain, I know new opportunities will reveal themselves, you know. And I also gambled, you know. I signed a contract for only 4 months when I joined. That was, basically half a season. I joined them half September, and we decided to sign a contract until December. So there was only 4 months. And in those 4 months, I was able to score in 9 games, 5 goals, you know. And of course, the Spanish team wanted to extend my contract, but I also had other opportunities. And I had an opportunity to go back to Turkey, but this time to, you know, one of the top teams called Besiktas. Besiktas at that time was playing Champions League, and they were playing for, you know, the championship, and they were doing well. So it was, for me, a great opportunity to put myself in a position again where you would never dreamed of, you know, a few months before. So I went to Besiktas, played Champions League, played well. I hadn't played Champions League for, I think, 6-7 years at that time. So for me, it was a great opportunity. I did well, and that's where slowly, you know, the media kind of tapped into me again, and also the Dutch media, where all of a sudden, you know, they were saying, hey, maybe he should get a chance again in national team. So that was really crazy. I feel like it started, of course, believing in yourself, and me making that sacrifice to not focus on what financially the offer was for me, but more as in how much playtime can I get here to create new opportunities. And I don't think many football players would have done that, because again, you know, without being specific about numbers, you know, it was really coming from LA to there. It was a hard reality to say, like, well, you know, I have to be happy just to keep on my lights, you know. So again, at that point, that didn't really matter to me. It was an investment in myself, and I knew if I was focused and worked hard enough that, like I said, new opportunities would reveal themselves.
You said you was clubless for a few months.
Yeah.
A little bit about the mental side. Did you doubt yourself at that point?
No, I didn't. I never really doubted myself, but I must say that as a football player, you kind of look around you. So you look at players from your age, you look at players on your position, you look at players that are more or less connected to you. You know, even if you don't want to, people, media, fans always gonna compare you to other similar players, and that was driving me crazy more in the beginning. That, you know, there were certain players that, in my opinion, were not necessarily better than me, but they were in a much better position. You know, they had much better PR and different type of position, and that was kind of like a battle to me, that I was like, hey, you know, how is it possible that I'm not in a similar position, you know? So it was a kind of battle and challenge that I had to focus and say, like, hey, don't let that distract you, just focus on yourself. But it was not easy, you know? And again, when I kind of decided to let that go, that's where everything kind of felt in place again for me. Yeah.
What is your biggest fear, both as a human and as a football player? Or did you ever have one, or still have one?
I don't know if that is my necessary. I don't know. I want to say that I really think about it a lot. But if I talk about fear in terms of football, is to definitely get, you know, a certain type of injury that will take you out for a long time. You know. Unfortunately, you see it happens sometimes with players, you know, who are out for a year, you know, who break, you know, bones or do, you know, their ACL, and I never luckily experienced those type of injuries yet, and I hope I don't have to, you know. But yeah, you know, there are many stories where players, you know, caused certain injuries and were never able to come back to their fitness and everything. And I think in terms of that would be my biggest fear. In terms of personal side is that me making bad decisions where you can cause yourself that could affect your family. As we are here today, of course, I am the person now in the family that is able to change situations, of course, because I'm fortunate of making it into football. So you have a lot of people are depending on me. It's my decision how I could develop people's situations, and if I'm selfish, making wrong decisions that could affect people's futures, and you just want to make sure that you constantly take the right decision and make sure that you can grow and help everybody grow. So maybe that could be my fear in terms of personal life. Yeah.
Nice. Performing top level, delivering for your family, but also being at top stage in world football. I will say Champions League, national team of your country. There's a lot of pressure. I think in football there's a lot of pressure that we give ourselves to always be the best or to perform. Pressure from fans, pressure from media. How important, in your opinion, is mental health for football players?
I find that a really great topic to talk about because I don't necessarily know what it means, right? However, if I talk for myself, I can only say that your mental state of mind is definitely important because that obviously decides how you feel. And if I can give an example, if you, let's say, played an incredible game and you scored and you won, then the next day and a lot of days after that following to the next game, you feel incredibly great. People giving you compliments, let's say, you had some good media, people praising you, that helps for how you feel, But once you, for example, have a bad game and you have, fans coming for you, you have the media coming for your neck, that also can affect your vibe and mood. And I've experienced that many times over, and still today sometimes, if I play in people's eyes not a great match, they try to come for your head, and I would be lying if I would say that it doesn't affect me, of course it affects you. And I feel like everyone deals with it in a different way, but I must say it's not always easy. It's not always easy, and I can definitely imagine that some players are maybe not able to really deal with it in a proper way, and it could affect them in a different way also long term. And again, people need to realize, especially football fans, that also we as football players, we are humans, we have feelings, I think that's how it is. Yeah.
How do you deal with it? You said you experienced it many times also. I think every footballer does. How can you deal with it best?
I don't know. I don't really have the right answer to that. I mean, I can only speak for myself, and it's easy to say, don't read the news or don't look on Instagram or social media, but that's not easy. You will be on Instagram, you will be reading football news, so you kind of get confronted with it regardless, so I feel like self-belief is very important. If you are going to doubt your ability, I think that's where you can get confused really quick. But if your self-belief is good enough, then you can tell yourself like, hey, okay, I played a bad game today, but it happens. We're gonna work and we try better next game, So,
nice. Yeah. I think a nice one for people to stick in their head, especially as football players. I think self-belief is the most important thing, I think, to make it and to stay close to yourself.
Yeah.
Your best moment or your most valuable memory in your football career?
I mean, I had a few different type of moments, meaning different for me personally. Let's say, for example, in Liverpool, fans would say my winning goal against Manchester United, would mean a lot to them, of course, because of the rival team. But to me, I had also a lot of other moments that were maybe more important to myself. I remember scoring a goal against Arsenal, quarterfinal Champions League. That took us to the next round. That secured basically the win for us. And those type of moments you live for. At home, scoring in front of the cup, and everybody cheering. You also know as a football player, that's an incredible feeling, especially if it's an important game and you can score a winning goal. That's an incredible feeling. Yeah.
I could only see those moments on TV. But have you been visit Indonesia before? And have you ever heard about Indonesia? What do you think about it?
I've never visited Indonesia. I'm definitely planning to do, but I've already heard about it. I had a player a lot of years ago who went to Indonesia from Ajax, I think, or he played in Ajax before. I forgot his name, but I used to be in touch with him. These were the Twitter days, and so I remember already having a lot of engagement with Indonesian people just for the fact that, I stayed in touch with him also over Twitter when we were engaging. I mean, I do know also in Indonesia you have a lot of Liverpool fans, so I definitely appreciate, the support, even if I'm not aware how big the support is to me personally, but I definitely appreciate every support that I get also from Indonesia.
Any chance to compete one day with me in Indonesia?
Never say never, and, the person that I am naturally, I'm an adventurous person. I love to discover new things, and if you look at my football career, you can tell I've been to places
yes,
where you would not naturally, would say before that you would go there. Never say never. I'm definitely open to explore
places. Any advice for young kids, people who look up to Ryan Babel, young football players in Indonesia, in Holland, in England, wherever they might be? What will your advice be for young athletes?
Look, the most important thing is to have fun, and not only with sports or football, it's with everything. I realized if you don't have fun, if you're not passionate about it, then you can never keep up doing it for a long time. So fun is very important, having fun with it, enjoy the things that you do is very important, and then the rest will fall into place. If you go a little bit deeper as a football player, whether you're attacker or defender, if you early on already have a certain quality, if it's dribbling, don't lose that quality. I know once you're gonna play for certain teams, you'll have probably coaches who will say, hey, play simple or don't dribble too much. I'm not saying don't listen, but always still keep your moments and keep dribbling. If that's your quality, try to develop it, try to use it as an asset to your advantage, and don't lose it because a random coach is telling you to say not to dribble.
Nice advice. We put football aside.
Yes.
About football. Nowadays, a top athlete is more than just an athlete, more than just a football player. I think you are an example at the moment of it. Despite what people are saying, in my opinion, that's the way and the future for athletes. I look up to you in that way. You have a real estate, you're busy with music labels, whatever may more I don't know about. Why is business outside your current playing career important to you?
It depends. Depending on what type of person you are, I feel like you have two types of people, right? You have people who are self-disciplined. I guess you call them entrepreneurs, and you have people who look for security, who don't mind to work for a boss and get a steady paycheck and just have a steady life. For me personally, as an athlete, also why is it important to develop also in business is, I think, we as football players, you develop a certain ego during your football career, right? If you do well, you have a lot of people who will support you, who will be fans. You will be obviously like, people would look at you like a celebrity. You're a known person, mostly worldwide. So I feel like it would be very difficult for a football player once they retire to go back to average life and work for a boss, and this person will tell them what to do, So I think it's a footballer's responsibility to also tap into their self-education outside football, because that day will come one day that you have to hang up your boots and have to go into the normal life and survive, and unfortunately football players very early on are not able to finish their schools, so that's that little piece, the basics that you already don't get when you grow up. So the only things that you know about is football. So I think as a football player, you're responsible to educate yourself and find something else outside football that you can fall back on once you hang up your boots. And that's very important, because that's where players mostly always find themselves in a black hole. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they want to do. Most of the time they keep up with the lifestyle that they, already had during their football career, and that results into spending, the spending habits that they always had. It's difficult to stop that. So if you don't have a replacement for football, a business that can at least make sure that your foundation, your income is secured, then you will be in big trouble. And I realized that very early on, that a career could be over very soon, and you need to be ready when that day comes. So that's why I feel inspired, educate myself on different type of businesses and sectors.
And now also to educate others, inspire others. Is that is that how I say that? Is that a difficult choice you made to do that? To inspire others as well, to give that message?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It came from me realizing, like, hey, once I kind of found the answer for myself, because I've tried many things and many things didn't work, right? So that came with losing time, losing money, obviously. That came with meeting the wrong people who took advantage. And I learned from that, right? And I know a lot of players are in that same position too. If you don't have the right people around you, you're just getting screwed by people, because we just don't know about it. You have to, often we as football players make decisions based on feelings. People are trying to sell us everything, and then if you think, or if it's a great idea, then you might think it could be a success, but that's not how it works, right? So at one point when I found the answer for myself, I felt a kind of responsibility to share that information. And initially it was the idea to focus just on athletes. But when I also saw that also normal people who are not athletes were interested in understanding how things work, I now felt like, hey, maybe I can try and develop and do something for people in general who are interested in trying to change their lives around.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very inspiring, and keep on doing that. Even if you play 2 bad games, don't stop.
Right. Right.
No, cool. I made some rapid questions as well, so don't think too long.
Okay.
Fire. Music or business?
Music.
England or the Netherlands?
England.
Champions League with Ajax or World Cup with the Netherlands?
Champions League with Ajax.
Gerrard or Sneijder?
Steven Gerrard.
Hat-trick or man of the match?
Hat-trick.
Klaas-Jan Huntelaar or Fernando Torres?
Klaas-Jan Huntelaar.
Go around the world or stay at home with family?
Go around the world.
Robin van Persie or Ruud van Nistelrooy?
Robin van Persie.
Family or friends?
Family.
Ajax or Liverpool?
Liverpool.
Persija Jakarta or Persib Bandung?
Oh shit.
Now you have to say. Now you have to answer the right thing.
Okay. Okay. Jesus. These are two rival teams or what?
Biggest in the world.
Biggest in the world.
Maybe you can compare. Maybe you can compare with Gala.
Yeah. Okay. So then I would have to go for the team that is more Galatasaray. Which team is that?
I would go for Jakarta. My team.
Okay.
No, good. That was it, man. That was.
Yeah, thank you.
What I had. You enjoyed it?
Thank you. Yeah, for sure, man. I love doing these type of things. And yeah, a great initiative to do that. So yeah, man, you can always count on me if you need help or advice. But I like the initiative that you're doing this.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate your appearance.